So this is the third session of the BMS training. We have already integrated a lot of protocols in the previous version, KNX in the first, and then BACnet, Modbus, SNMP, HTTP, and OPC examples in the second. But now it's time to be clear and organize our work. And this is an important step, and you will realize at the end of the training that how important is this part of your work as an integrator, because the BMS is here for help. It's here waiting for our small effort in the beginning to get a big improvement in our projects at the end. And this is very, very important to have this global vision for the projects and to know the tools that this solution is giving us. And one of the key factors of these successfully projects is the Alias concept. The Alias is one of the branches here in the ItemTree that is a bit hidden, and it was not so many used in the past, but now takes a lot of importance because of one important concept we will see, that is the variables. The variables use it not only in the web manager that we will see tomorrow, but also in the visualization. And this is really interesting because you can face massive projects in a very simple way using that concept of variables. I will try to do some examples at the end of the training on Thursday to show you how important is this concept now with the BMS platform. And we didn't have this possibility before. In the last version, the previous version was a fantastic BMS server for some years ago, but now we have a very powerful tool, and many of the advantages are a bit hidden and not look important, but it's really important, this kind of things. So the first thing we will do is to deal about the aliases. Okay, we have different protocols, and we will include some more during the next sessions. For example, for the hotel management, this training is focused, or the examples are focused on a hotel, but this is not the only case. It's just a complex case that can help us to understand how we can do or we can face this challenge that is a automation building a project. So it's really important to understand all the possibilities that we get. The Alias concept is one of these tools, is one of the things that can make us very interesting possibilities and make us the work so easy. So let's start dealing about the Alias. The first thing to do, if we want to reorganize the items, is to understand what do we need. We have a hotel project, but this could be a different example. It could be 200 stores or 500 hotel, 500 office, bank offices or supermarkets or whatever. So it's not the important. So this alias is again a table that we can open in the extensions menu, as you can see here. This aliases is very simple. Is a table that can give us the possibility to take an item ID and to rename it, very important, with the name that we would like. It's not a problem. And also reorganize that item. So I will show you a short example. I will delete it. This one item from KNX, for example, one light, KNX. Item from KNX for the first room, for example, is just an example. We will use some tables that we already have. Okay, this is one on-off light one, for example. Okay, so this light in the real world, this group address, we know it, okay, is the same for every room, but the number of the light is this is light number 1. This is the strategy we have chosen during our configuration in the ETS. Okay, this is light number 1, but this is the hall light or the bathroom light or the left lamp or the right lamp or the ceiling or the bed light. We don't know. So this is the reason why we can rename this. So we can say, okay, this is the light from the hall, and the function is the on-off, for example. Light hall on-off. This is a name. And more important thing is also reorganize this light. So we can also create a path organizing this in a specific floor and in a specific room. So this will mean that we will have a floor, inside the floor rooms, and inside the rooms specific orders or controls or status with the name, with the right name, the physical, the real name for us. And this is very important because it doesn't matter if it's KNX or BACnet. In fact, we can also, for example, create here a new definition, and we can also, improve this with lights, for example, to distinguish one to the other. This could be, for example, the status of this light that is in KNX. It is here, status light 1. This is the number. You can see the number of the light is this, and the mid group is the difference between on-off and status. Okay, and we can select this, copy paste, and this is the status of the same whole light. And we can put this here, for example. And this is fantastic. But the best thing is that I can maybe need some, imagine that I need the do not disturb button, for example, okay? That it has to be also here inside this room. And we need maybe the makeup room button. But also some status of this and some status of that in the same room. But what happened if these elements came from BACnet, for example, as I mentioned before? It was a problem because in the BACnet, it was this one. Look, if we only have the original item ID, it was so different. So we could not use any kind of variable because, okay, in the KNX is possible. You know, here this is the floor and this is the room number. Okay, and the number of the light also is a third possible variable. But if you have KNX and BACnet, you are lost because it doesn't have to be exactly the same naming because the BACnet devices are different. Maybe it's a part created for a different integrator. That is also possible. But with the alias, we will have, as you will see, we will have it organized in the same folder. So we only have to select here the second button here, the second button, and the status for the first. This is the status and the status for the other one. And it doesn't mind if it's coming from BACnet or whatever, Modbus, SNMP, a website, it doesn't mind. That's the status. And if I just save and restart the server, you will see all these elements, all these new items in the alias items branch in the item tree. And it's very important. This alias is not affecting our data points. We can say that they are free of cost. You don't spend data points from your license because of the use of the alias. It's totally included in the BMS license, okay? So let's take a look on the alias. So we have one example, one floor, one room, and different elements. This is the item ID, floor 01, room 0101 for the makeup room button, for example, or the status. And for the lights, this is also the same idea. We have now the possibility to substitute the number of the floor or the number of the room or the name of the light with variables. So you will see this more in detail tomorrow. First approach with the web manager to create templates, for example, and more in depth with the visualization. That is really, really fantastic to have this possibility. And it's interesting because I don't mind the original of the items. I don't mind if they came from BACnet. I don't mind if one floor of the hotel is BACnet and the second floor is KNX and the third floor is Modbus. It's not important now because we have the alias to correct these problems. I don't mind if the integrator has done not the same way the KNX programming as I normally do, because we can take all this information. It could be better, but this is the real situation. Okay, I take this ETS project, I import it, and then I reorganize and I make again the order and the ordering and the renaming of the elements using the alias. And the alias becomes our main source of data points if we have different protocols or a massive installation where we have to organize everything in a clear structure, because we know that we can use the variables for this. You will understand this concept tomorrow and in the next sessions, but it is very important for us. Okay, so I am mixing KNX and BACnet, and we have exactly the same idea, the same structure with floors and room numbers, etc. It doesn't mind if it's KNX or BACnet now. So let's take my alias again, but I will save time taking from Excel the information. So I just go to the session number 3 and you will get all this information. So I have, for example, one single room. So I will show you how we do this, Okay. So we have, for example, these first are central things. For example, the central off or on, the lux level of the room, temperature, or central move all the shutters, awnings, and curtains, central stop. This is a central things. About the lights, we have in a different folder inside the lights folder, inside the floor and the room, of course. On off of the hall, status of the hall, bath, status of the bath, left light, right light is near the bed, the ceiling, the bed, whatever. In this case, we have, I think, 4 lights on off. Okay, on off 4 lights. The first 1, 2, 3, and 4 from KNX, and the lights number 11 and 12 are dimmers. Ceiling is 1 dimmer, so we have on off, dimming, value, 3 different controls, the status on off and the status in percentage, and the same for the bed light. So, but now we are going to take all this information for any kind of rooms and floors from ETS. So it doesn't mind if you have only 1 IP per room. It doesn't mind if you have 10 rooms per line. It is more difficult or easier, but with the alias, you can reorganize everything by floor and room. So the original item is not important in this case. You have to spend time to invest time, but this is the best time you can invest in your project, to spend it in this. About the shutters, we have a core time, for example, in the bath and in the terrace, for example. So we have different things, a move, stop, and the height and the status, the height status. And as I told you, you have also your BACnet objects for the do not disturb and the makeup room button and its status respectively, with the same philosophy of naming and, moreover, more important, this organizing in floors and rooms in different folders, okay, inside this strategy. This is just an example. It's not all the times you have to do exactly this, but it's an example. So we can take this. If I save and restart, you will see that everything from this room is working, and we can use it from now to the end of the project using the alias instead of the original items. I don't mind if they were KNX or BACnet or whatever. It's not important because I have the alias to do this. So this is very, very interesting, and it will be very, very useful for us. I have 8 rooms. Okay, let's work it in Excel. So to do this in Excel, I will open, for example, I will open Excel now, and I will open the one room file. I will show you now after opening. So how to work with a lot of rooms. If you have one, for example, created, just very simple. Okay, we have this. So if I were you, what I would do is, okay, I have one room, okay. So, but you can use different parts in Excel. I will delete this. So the best thing is, okay, let me take this, for example, the KNX part, copy, and I can paste here. And then here I have Control L to replace. So I can say, okay, let me change 0101, for example, or the text room 0101, and replace it with the next, for example. So 62 replacements, 31 definitions, and in the original item is changing because the number of the gateway is different, and in my structure also. So it's just like this, and then I copy paste this. So it's very easy. It's just coming here and pasting this here. So if you want, you can also work with BACnet in a specific part of the Excel file and work only with KNX here. So this is, for example, the next is to change this to this, and the KNX is changing in seconds. So it's just copy pasting. So it's very simple. If you have a good strategy from the beginning in KNX, because it's only changing the number of the gateway, because we have decided to replace or to use exactly the same configuration in KNX and only change the IP gateway. And then about BACnet, It is just a question of small amount of time to take care with this. So with, okay. We can also change this to this. But in this case, we have to also change, for example, this is the first channel. So this text has to be changed also to this. And the second to channel number 4. This is just a question to take a look on the items, to take what is happening with the items. And then you have this to copy paste in the original item. So more or less it takes some time, but and then here maybe, yeah, we should not delete the previous one, but maybe need two sheets for the BACnet. But this is the way that you can create an Excel file with the whole number of rooms. This is the one I'm going to show you now. The final version of this Excel file is one with all rooms, and that is the one we are going to use, and I'm going to show you. This is the final version. All rooms is this. We have every single room with all the KNX items, every single room, 1 to 0 to 04, and then all the BACnet. All the BACnet, do not disturb and make a room button and status for every single room. And in this case, I did, well, just playing. I did a copy, it's exactly a copy, but I replicated for the 3rd and the 4th floor because it was an example with 4 floors with 4 rooms. I do not have 16 practical boards, only 8, but it's exactly the same, copy pasting, and it's replicating in the case of the KNX. And in the case of BACnet, I have already possibilities, so I use the cards number 3 and 4. So digital output card number 4 and 5 in this case. So it is independent elements, but this is a file with a whole and complete reassignation of items coming from KNX and coming from BACnet into the Alias strategy. So if we use this file, I will close here, and I import it here, not only one room, but also all the rooms, we get the whole configuration here for not only for two floors, even for 4 floors. And we have a lot of alias. It doesn't mind the number of alias because this is not affecting our license, as I mentioned before. So this is the alias strategy. It's very, very important for us because we will work with the alias from now onwards, and it's very easy to do. Okay. Okay. So now we have everything inside the Alias. Well, it's not everything because I'm using only 4 of the 8 lights, but for our example is enough. But everything is now organized by floor and room numbers, and the name of the of the light. It's not a number now. It's the whole light, or is the ceiling light, for example, or is the bed light. It's not a number. For us, is more strict and more clear definition of what circuit we are using. So it's very, very important. So this is the alias concept, and this will be very, very useful in the following sessions. But we have to continue with more things to explain here. So we have a lot of branches in the item tree, and we will take a look now on all these branches before we continue talking about the item management and to export and import, and also to use the BMS as a server, as a BACnet or OPC server. We will take a look on the rest of the item tree. This is the aim of this third session. This item tree started with the XIO branch, as you could see before. XIO means the real drivers for interchange of information, input output in exchange. This is what more or less what it means. XIO, exchange between inputs and outputs. We say native drivers. So KNX is included, BACnet is included, Modbus or whatever. So we have seen how we could integrate everything. There is a cloud connector that is here inside, but it will be explained in the future. In the session number 9, I think, more or less. I will explain about the cloud connectors, also very interesting new functionality from NETx Automation. But now it's time to take a look on the rest of the branches of the item tree. Some of them are very useful, some of them are not so much used, but always interesting. So we have seen XIO, and we have also seen part of the cluster. So we made an OPCDA discovering, and we get information, for example, from my own. This is exactly from my own BMS. It's curious, but we are reading ourselves, but as an example that we are possible to connect other servers, an OPC, and a strange OPC server that it was used as an example. It's totally useless. It's not interesting, but it was an example. So how we could read information from an OPC. I mentioned before that OPC servers are useful in some cases to give us to the BMS some information, for example, coming from fire alarm systems, for example, or old automation systems. Some cases, the OPC is the only way that we can get all this information. For example, for long works systems is also typical situation. You have a long works installation, and normally if it's updated up to BACnet. But if it's an old installation and the customer is not interested to spend money to convert to BACnet, maybe they use a typical OPC server from Longworks to OPC. OPCDA or even OPC UA is also a different possibility. But we will deal about OPC in the future. So there is another branch here, BNet. But I mentioned that this is also a possibility to discover in the clustering menu. But VNet is an internal protocol for NETx Automation, and this for a cluster of BMS. One of the best advantages of NETx Automation solution is the scalability. I mentioned from the first session that we can face any kind of challenge in terms of building automation projects. It doesn't mind the complexity, it doesn't mind the size. And we are demonstrated with facts that is real, because we have integrated a lot of KNX small parts of a building, a lot of other protocols, and this is not the end of that integration. We will also integrate tomorrow even PMS solutions, so for hotel management, also door lock systems. So this is almost unlimited, because the XIO driver is open. It's also possible to create a specific driver to a specific protocol, proprietary protocols. It's under development, for example, protocol to OCPP for electrical vehicle chargers. This is a protocol for EV chargers, and whatever other you may have in your projects, you can ask if it's possible to do this integration. If you have the protocol and the permission from the protocol owner to do this, it will be possible to include in the BMS, so it's open. But it's also scalable, and this is one of the biggest advantages. It's unlimited or almost unlimited, because we may have, of course, limitations, physical limitations in one building, because systems are not infinite. But if you have several buildings and you are interested in controlling one by one with a good BMS, you have the solution here. But imagine that you need some critical things to be monitored in a central BMS. This is also possible, and this is the solution is to make a cluster of all these BMS and create a super BMS that is the cluster of the BMS, and all the secondary BMS are sending that critical data points to the central BMS using VNet protocol. So this is the explanation in brief of what we are going to see also in the session number 9, that we are going to deal about all these special functionalities, main backup, clustering, and all these things. If we continue, we come to the module. Okay, module is also very, very interesting and very special branch in the ItemTree. We will know much more about this branch in the future, because we haven't seen the lamps, we haven't seen the metering, and we haven't seen the My Smart Suite, the GRMS for room control. After that sessions, you will understand the module importance also. There is also support tools that is inside this module. So this branch will be now left behind, because we haven't seen all these parts. But we will come back to this module branch. Okay, we will see a lot of things, a lot of functionalities here. Very, very interesting. And now we go to the server. We have taken a look before with server. It's just information, very important, about the server itself. So we have a main branch, main data points about the server, the type of the server, if it's a BMS server, a multi-protocol server, or whatever. The version is an item. Also, the workspace name is an item. So you can also use this, for example, as a title for your visualization. Why not? If it's online or in simulation, you can see here, but you can see also here. Remember, online. If you see this item is a Boolean, if it's online, it's true. If it's false, it's because you are in simulation mode. Okay, so if you see here true, it's because you are online. You can also see that you are online in the status bar. Okay, 3 ways to know if you are online or in simulation mode. I will open the server in simulation mode, so to demonstrate that I am not lying. If I stop the server and I start pressing not the green but the blue button, we will start in simulation mode. We will get a message from the BMS advising that no single data is sent to the XIO systems. So I told you is in simulation mode. So, and we can see that we are in simulation mode in that 3 parts of the studio. In the top, you will see simulation. In the status bar, you will see simulation. And in the item tree, of course, with that item in false value, not true value. But it's interesting because online simulation are 2 different things. Simulation is interesting and you want to test something without devices, physical devices, you can do it. So we are in simulation. We are in simulation, you see also here, and in server branch, this item is false, so it's not true, it's not online, it's in simulation mode. So it's important. Okay, let's again stop and start in online mode. We get a message about OPC client. Okay, we start again. So now we are online again and we can follow. Okay, online simulation, that's clear. Active or standby. In principle, if you are not active, you will not see anything because if you stop the server, you cannot see the item tree. But this makes sense when you have a main backup configuration, when you have two BMS working as a main or backup, because you can be online, but you can be in standby. It's a typical situation for the backup server. So this item makes sense. For a standalone server, as we have now, we have only one single BMS working. You will never see this in false value, because if you are in standby, well, not in standby, if you are not active, you will be disconnected. Okay, so this makes sense when you have a main backup, as it happens here. So is main server is an item that is telling us that we are defined as a main server. It's not true, because we are not main or not backup. We are just a standalone server. It's not main or backup. Of course, we are a main server because we are the only one, but it's not the concept of main backup. We are a standalone server. Of course, we have not redundant server connected on evidence to this. Number of clients. This means a different kind of clients. It's not related to the license, because the license is also limited by the number of connections for the visualization, but this is not related to this. This means clients like OPCs, clients like the own studio, the BMS studio is a client and whatever. So there is a lot of clients that are now connected to the server. We should ask which clients are that, because we don't have this information here, but the number is 25. OPC clients, yes, we have one OPC client connected. Nice. And this item is really important, because it is indicating how reliable is our solution. How many telegrams are in queue? There is one queue for sending, one queue for receiving, and the BMS is processing really fast. But when you have a transient, for example, when you start the server, you may start with 500 or 2000 items here, but you can see here how fast is the BMS to process all this information. When you have 0 or less than 20 or less than 100, it's working perfectly. Nothing left. It's 1 second to process everything, or less than 1 second. It's the same with the task. You can create tasks, different tasks. For example, we have seen the virtual links. It's just a source and destination link. But if you want to do more complex things, you use the tasks. If you have several tasks, you will see here how long is the processing of that tasks. Number of uncertain items. It's logic that you have a lot of uncertain items, because you may have a lot of items you haven't used it. For example, we haven't sent on off to a light, but if, for example, we have now 2550, so 2515, but if I send here 1, I have less because I am changing that. Okay, so because I have less elements undefined. But this is also not useless, it's interesting, but this is not critical for us to have this element. The session ID is also indicating you how many sessions you have started and stopped with the BMS in your computer or whatever. And what is the last change of the OPC tree structure in ticks in milliseconds, for example. I think ticks is milliseconds or something similar. So how old is your item tree can be also seen here. If we go ahead, let me close this. If we go ahead, we have also sub branches in the server branches, the license, for example. So if you have a demo, you will see here the demo version, for example. This my license is a temporary license for 1 year, so it was created in January of this year. 2021-01 is January of the year. This is the version of the 012 is BMS platform, for example, the reference of the product, and this is my my developer license with 60,000 because we are managing big projects in Madrid. And we need this kind of license to help the integrators. This is the number of license items, and this is the number of items you are using. So it's also possible to create a sort of logic to create an alarm. For example, if you are exceeding 90% of the items you are using in your license, you can get a message, for example. This is very easy to do. So you can divide this to this, and if the value is higher than 0.9, for example, it's possible to trigger an alarm, these kind of things. So for license items, but look, this is 60,000, for example. Any BMS has also double amount for virtual items. And this is really useful because we may need a lot of virtual items in the projects. Imagine that you have temperatures of different rooms, but you want to calculate a average, a temperature average. It could be an example to do tomorrow, for example. This can be done only if you have a destination item to write the result of this average. This destination item doesn't have to be a group address. It could be a virtual item that you can create, define, and use for that logic. So it's also very important. And we are using only 11 of these 120,000 virtual items. But if you have a license with 2,000 data points, you will have at the end 6,000 data points because you have 2,000 and 4,000 virtual items. So 2,000 real items and the double in virtual items. This is the connections for your license for the visualization, simultaneous visualizations. In this case, we have also 30, but normally you start with 2 or 3 maximum. If you need more, it's possible, but it has a price, the extra simultaneous connection, because you can have a hotel with 500 rooms, but if you only have 1 SCADA and 2 tablets for maintenance, you are only using 3. Simultaneous connection maximum, sometimes only 1. But if you need, for example, for the 100 suites, 1 specific visualization or 1 per room, you may need to ask for 500 connections. So this is the only thing to consider for the GRMS, for the My Smart Suite app. Okay, about database, also interesting because you have items to monitor. If you have the database enabled, if you have the database connected, why we need a database? Database is very important because we will need to create trendings. We need to store the alarm information. We need also to store historical information or even get reports, getting data from some or other SQL tables or wherever. So we need a good database. So by default, I have one of the 2 options that we have now is one is Microsoft SQL, that is not free, it is a payable professional license, but has a free express license, but is limited to 10 gigabytes. And the second option is MySQL MariaDB, Maria database. And this is the one I have selected because several reasons, but the most important is that it's unlimited. The limit is your computer, the hard disk you may have. So it's very interesting. And I will show you afterwards how to configure this database to use Microsoft or MySQL. But by default, when you install the BMS, you are asked to install one or the other. If you say everything yes during the setup, you will have MySQL, I think. So, but you can have in one project MySQL, in a different project Microsoft SQL. It's not a problem. You have just to change the configuration. Okay, so it's very interesting. This is the name of the database, so you can also search for this name to create a backups or whatever. If it's enabled, if it's connected, the size in megabytes also important for you to monitor. If the system database is synchronized, it's internal thing. The migration of the database, because there are new schemas for the database, the version of the database, and the connection string, localhost, whatever. And this is interesting because you can have the database in a different computer. It's not mandatory to have it in your local computer. In fact, in one project, in big project in Madrid, we have a main and backup servers, and we have 3 servers because one is specifically for the database, and it's a virtual server. So main and backup servers are writing in a third server for security reasons, and this server is a virtual machine. So it's very flexible in that way. So if you need have specific requirements for that, please ask, and we can. My colleagues will give you the best advice for your solution need. And also the SQL queries, value changes, it's all monitored here. So it's very interesting. And then about our fantastic web manager and web server. So web tools for managing information, managing data points, and for visualize. And this is indicating us the status 0 is okay, and the ports. By default, these ports are, in the case of Web Manager, 21,000 and 21,001. In the case of the web server, it's not that. If you have a BMS open, you will see that the default port is 80. It's typical HTTP port for visualization. And for HTTP secure, HTTPS or TLS, it's 443. And I have changed this. So I will show you how to do these changes, how to manage the ports in a very easy way. If you open the window, there is one option that you can open. Let me show you. Okay. It's because this is open. Okay, now. This is a BMS Platform Service Control. This is a tool that you can open, and it can help you to stop or restart a BMS if you have some trouble, okay? And even to stop or restart the web manager. The web manager means for the visualization and for the web management, to create alarms, things that we will see tomorrow. But in the details, you can open in the other screen. In the details, you can see that I can also change the ports for the web manager, the HTTP, and the secure one. This is the ports that you see here in the BMS. And for the web visualization, imagine that I want to change it to 8082, for example. So if I want to, and I want to force only the HTTPS, the secure, I just have to save and restart the service. So the service is restarting, and after restarting, I should get a different port here. Now, yes, it has changed to 88, 80, 83, 8082, sorry. and I will only have availability for the secure visualization. I'm forcing the HTTP state and the HTTPS, and the HTTP is disabled. So it's not possible to access without security if you want. I will change this again and put here again the original port and restart. So it's very easy to handle this, but you also have all this information. You also have all this information in the web, the ItemTree. Okay, this is the BMS platform service control. Very important. So today is also one of that typical branches that you never use, but is really useful in some cases. And I will put you some example, not now, maybe all, but in the future. I will take the current local date and time. This is the item now from today. And this is very useful because you can compare with different things to establish if you have some problem with an item. I will put you an example. Imagine that you have an item that you want to monitor if the data is fresh or is old. Fresh is when you have considered the last time you got information in that item is less than 5 minutes, for example. And it's old if this item hasn't been updated in more than 5 minutes. How to do this if you don't have this kind of time accounting? And you can use this, and you can use to compare this, for example, with a property of this element. Imagine, for example, that you want to check this status of one light, for example. So take a look on this status of light 1. Status of light 1. I changed this some time ago, and we can know because we have the timestamp. The properties of these items are in this window, and the timestamp is telling me that the last time this item receives a value or was updated, it was today at 13:38:31 seconds. So some minutes ago. If I change the value of this item, changing the control of the lights, turning on this light, you can see that the timestamp has changed. So the timestamp has exactly the same format in date and time as the item now, exactly the same. Of course, the timestamp of now is always changing because this is an item that is changing every second and giving us the last time. It's synchronized with the computer. So this is just one example. We can compare this dynamic data point, the now item in today branch, and subtract with have a different date. Diff date is a Lua function we will see about logics, and we can extract and get the difference in seconds, for example. This is possible to do. And if this difference is higher than 300 seconds, 5 minutes, we can get a result true, and this true is an alarm for us, for example. And this is one of the things that you can also use. The properties is fantastic because you can use the properties of the items can be used. The properties is the data type, the value, the quality, the access rights, if it's being historized, for example, in the database, and so on. So it's very important also. Okay. So local timestamp should be the one to compare. But there is also possibility to use the current local time in minutes, in hours, or whatever. So imagine that you want to do something exactly at 00, and only when the hours is 00 hours. So you can take this and do a comparison. When this value is exactly 00 and exactly time when it changed, you do this. And you don't need a calendar to do this. And more complex things. It's just a comparison and you can use it. Or even in minutes, no? You can compare, okay, at 12:25 in minutes is 745 minutes. So you can also use, if this value is exactly 12:45, do exactly these things. Or if it's between this and that, do whatever. So you can also use these things. It's also possible to know, well, the month, the weekday, okay, and if it's holiday or not. And the holiday, it's also affecting, for example, our schedules, our calendars. And you can define very easy the holidays. For example, imagine that today is holiday, but you don't know it's NETx day. So we will insert today is 13th of December 2021 is NETx day. Just save, and you can see here that today is holiday, now is true, and the holiday is NETx day. And this can affect the calendars, for example. So this is also possible. The rest of the things is only dummies, but we can, why not? We can also use, imagine that you want to take this temperature for my weather. The temperature is coming not from my weather station, but from internet, and just assign to here to temperature. So just do this, and then if it change, I can force red. Yes, if it changed, you get this here. It's a temperature on the minimum, maximum, on the mid. Maybe we have minimum, maximum, not here, but so you can use as a virtual links, for example, if it's raining or not, or weather text, for example, weather text. This is a virtual link. And if you force to read it, you will get, next time is changing every minute, you will get this. So it's also possible. So this is just dummies, but it's also interesting if you need it today. And then we arrive to the geo. The geo is one of my favorites. It will show us a lot of information about the sun position in polar coordinates. But of course, we need to explain where we are, in which position of the world, in which latitude and longitude we are, the coordinates of our server. So we should include this information. And this is done in a specific menu window that we have to open. Have 4 different sections here. For example, the database is configured here. I mentioned you before. I will show you how to change from MySQL to Microsoft SQL. So you can see here you can do this for this project. You will lose the data if you do this, the data before, because you're changing the database. But you can do the change here. You can also put the host name of the database, where it's located, okay, and so on. But I should not touch this. But if you want just to indicate what is your latitude and longitude, you just put here, what is my latitude? And I can take my smartphone with the compass, and I can say that I am in 43 degrees, approximately north, and minus 58 degrees west. We are not so far from the sea, but something. Elevation is 260 meters from the sea level, here in the north of Spain, Cantabric Sea or Atlantic Ocean, okay. And then Well, you can try to check where I live with these coordinates. And then we say, okay. We could also play with the sunrise offset time and sunset offset time. This is useful when you want to get crepuscular imagine that you want to use an item that you will see here, the virtual sun time calculation is an item, is Boolean item that is telling you with true that the sun is on the sky, and in false that is not on the sky, that is day and night. You can say this behind, below the, above, sorry, the horizon and or below the horizon. This is exactly the aim of that item. If you want to use this as a crepuscular switch, as a light switch, you can do it with some delays. Okay, but this is what you get. You have we have put the position of my house, and we know that the sunrise time is now 8:46 in the morning, and the sunset time is 17:46. So it's only 9 hours of light. It's really now it's the moment of the year with less hours of light in this part of the world, in the north of Spain. Only 9 hours. In summer is about 16. It's totally different. So it's we love the summer because we are outside every day until 11. The sun now is above the horizon. The azimuth is the angle from the north, so 200 is southwest, more or less, southwest, more or less. Altitude, look, it's really, and it's coming down now, but it's really low, 18 degrees only. Okay, from the horizon, and the zenith is the angle from the vertical. So if you add altitude and zenith, it's always 90. So it's useful because we can use, for example, the zenith to send the information to the shutter lamellas. If you want every 5 minutes, for example, you can take the zenith and send to the lamellas. And that angle for the lamellas is fantastic because it's protecting you from the sun. This is just a simple example. Of course, when we are talking about the shutter control systems, complex systems to control 2,000 shutters in a building, we are not using this specific tool. We are using different things. Okay, but it's useful in some cases. The moon age is also giving us information about the age of the moon. Now is in crescent phase. 14 is full moon, and 28, 29 is new moon. Okay, so we are in crescent, going to the full moon. And this is the geo branch. Is useful sometimes. If you need it, you can use it. It's very interesting and very easy to configure. And we have more, but we will last only a few times. Custom, we will see this in the future when we talk about scripting. And this is not for tomorrow, it's for Wednesday. Custom items can be created using our scripting Lua engine. Okay, so you will see it here. About the alias, we have also talked about alias. Okay, we can create the alias, for example. About the bar is 100 of strings, 100 of Boolean items, 100 numeric items, 100 real items. The different numeric is a integer, a real is a float items, and 100 of time and date items that you have always for free. For free means that you can use it every time for any reason. It's included in every BMS. It doesn't mind the size of the BMS. You have 100 strings that you can write on it. I say hello in Spanish, for example. It's a string. Okay, but you have also Boolean. So you can use the Boolean. You can write true or simply 0, false. You can use numbers. It's understandable for the. I think you can also write a T. No, T is not understandable. Capital letters is possible to change these values. Why do we need these kind of items? You will see to do some tests normally. You can use it for testing. I will use tomorrow for the lamps, for example, for the circuit definitions. I will use some of this. This is integer, so you put 23,6. It will be rounded to 24, for example. But here in the reals, if you put 23,6, in Spain we use the comma, you get it because it's with integers. And if you put 23,0006, you get it with a big and good resolution, okay? Because it's real 64. So you see the properties of this item is 64. It's a double, 64 bits. So, and the date, the same. If you write here, for example, the date of today, you can get it. And if you write an hour, for example, you also get it. And if you use both, you have both, because the date is a complex time and date data point, also using the proper size. So these vars will be also used in the future. And we are finishing. Well, XCON. It's not necessary to use this because we have the XCON, the XLogic engine active for the clients. I will explain this better tomorrow, because when we use when we use the web manager, you will see that we can execute actions, for example, or we can create the conditions for these actions. So if we want to, for example, to do a calendar is a timer event. So we have to define which events, which actions we want to execute at a specific time on the day. These actions will be based on X commands. I mean, if you want to turn on a light, this is a write X command. If you want to send a telegram or an email, this is a message X command. So this X command, these X logics are a library of elements that we already have, but it's very interesting. We can also create ourselves these X commands. So this is very important for us. So, but this is not necessary to use this here. Okay, so it's a branch that is still here, but it's not necessary. The virtual, very important also. We will use it also, for example, for the to create our own property management system, for example, to BMS for a hotel. Virtual is imagine that we have a virtual here, virtual item definition. This is an example that I can delete. But if you want, the sample I told you, average temperature, floor 1. This is just an example. So imagine that you want to create a folder that is for temperatures, and you have average temperature floor 1. This is the description, and the most important thing, the data type. What is the temperature? It's a Boolean, it's a string, it's a byte, it's a character. No, it's a double, for example, or maybe a float, a real 32-bit. Access rights. Okay, I want to read and write. That's it. We can also link directly with a real item, existing item, but it's not necessary in this case. And we can also execute a Lua function when receive or send, but it's also it's really interesting because you have a lot of possibilities. And this is one item. I can also let me well, the word temperature was not properly written, but it's okay. Let me put a better name for the item. And this is a virtual item that we are creating. We are giving the data type, and the access rights. And of course, this item starts without any value. It's necessary to give the item values, but it's created by you with the name you would like. It's not an alias, okay? A virtual item is it's an item that you can use. An alias is just a shortcut of another item that you have. So it's not an alias. Don't confuse alias with virtual item. It's a different thing. Virtual item is an item that you are creating with the name you would like to have, but it was not existing before. This is new items. I have here the items. If I want to write the value, it's not the case because it should be an average calculated from a different thing, but you can put whatever here, no problem. Okay, this is your item. And this is what we are going to use, for example, to create our own property management system, for example, if you don't have Fidelio driver or whatever. And the last is the XCON. And I am finishing also with the ItemTree. XCON is really fantastic also. It's a really nice toy, we can say, to play with a lot of toys. For example, imagine that you have to send some string or some hexadecimal string to a UDP device. So it's very simple. You have a beamer, for example, to project images. And so you have an IP address, a port, and a hexadecimal data to turn on the device, to turn off the device, to start projection or whatever. It's just to know the address, the port is a UDP, so the protocol is here inside, and the data to send. Imagine, it's just an example that you have a UDP typical port. For example, 53. And then the X data to send is FFBA, for example. And then with this, you send this, and what you are doing is turning on the beamer. And you can do this in a button in a visualization. So this is fantastic because you can use this item in the visualization, and you put turn on beamer in a button, and it's just put this code in the text of the button to send with the related to this item. It's really fantastic. For example, this is just an example, UDP. You can also communicate with a serial port, virtual serial port, of course, with the config of the name of the COM, the baud rate, data bits, parity, whatever. So the RS232, for example, is possible in a virtual port. So you may need a converter through serial to IP. and then you can send from the BMS information to that serial port using UDP, but not resume. You can also use the TCP driver. You can use HTTP from here, not from the menus that we have seen before, because these menus were created because the customers like you asked it, can we have this better way, more easy, whatever? So it was created as this way. And in the knowledge base, you will find, again, examples to use this. So this is very important for us to explain that the ItemTree is really big, is really powerful. We have missed the module, we'll explain tomorrow, and also the custom and create some more virtual items. But we will play with a lot of items that we have in our hands. These items can also be handled. I mean, for example, with KNX, we have a possibility to make a picture of what is happening with my values now in this time. So we can make a backup of the values in an Excel file. So take a look. The Excel file has the timestamp in the name of the file, so the date and the time, and we can save this. So you will have 1051 KNX item values of KNX exported. So you have a picture of what happened exactly at this time with KNX. But it's also, and if I open it, I can show you. It's also interesting that you can do this with the whole item tree. So let me show you the file that I have already exported in a few seconds ago. So it's here. This is the item. So I open it, and we get a picture of what is happening with my KNX. Only KNX. Well, values, my Excel is Spanish, so it's false, not falso, not false. Verdadero is true, but you have also what was the temperature for this element, the luxes, or whatever. So this is the values. If you have, if it's not, has no value, it's empty. But this is a picture of what happened exactly at that time. So you can take picture of that. And also, there is a second possibility in the tools menu that is also interesting, that you can make a backup of all item values to an Excel file. But the best thing is that you can change it and load it back and change the values of the items you may need from Excel. So imagine that you want, or you have specific basic configuration with values, and you want to load it and have no items without value, you can do it. So you just have to back up all the items to a file, or let's do a backup, for example. So you will have the picture also. And in this case, we have 3,620 items. Okay. So if I open it, you will see that it's not only KNX, is also okay. All values backup. Open, and you see all the values, not only KNX. All the values backup is the whole item tree. And if you want to change something, you can put here. You can change whatever value and then load it back again. So this is, for whatever reason you may need, you can do it. You can just load items from value, but you are prompted, are you really want to overwrite current values? It can damage your project because you can maybe change something in the Excel. So it's risky, at your own risk, but it's possible to do this also. So finally, and I'm finishing 5 minutes, it's also in the session to talk about server items, server to BACnet and server to OPC. So I will start talking about BACnet server, but I will show you connecting using Google Desktop my BMS, my home BMS, and I will show you how to do this. Okay, this is just a few seconds because I want to show you how to get information from this. So I will. Okay, this is the BMS from my house. Okay, let me change this. And one of the things I can do in BACnet is the mapping definition. So I can map in BACnet any element. I have done it before, so I have it commented. Now it's in definition mode. So what I did was to take the light of my office and the status and the movement of the shutter, for example, my office. So you can see if I save this in my server and I restart it, this is my house BMS, but when I have it again restarted, what is doing my server is to map whatever item to BACnet. And these items in this case are from KNX, but it could be from Fidelio, or it could be from BINCARD, a door lock system, or it could be virtual, or it could be from Modbus or whatever. It's not important. They are being mapped to BACnet. Now it seems that this started again, I think. It's on it. And when it's start again, what I can do is now is to check what is happening with BACnet. If I discover again, okay, look, just to show you that it's active again. Okay, this is the server and it's working fine. Okay, well, this Modbus device is not connected because I am using the connection in here. So I go to BACnet again and start Explorer again. And now, instead of 2 devices, we will find 3 devices. Because one is a new one that is the NETx BMS server that has 3 objects in BACnet that I can append to my remember, not change, not delete everything. So if I start, I will see in the BACnet item the new device with the 3 elements that I can control. Okay, BACnet. Now I have, 3 devices. Here I have office light, shutter, so I can turn on or turn off. the light of my office that is going off now, on again. I can move the shutter. And it's working. I am moving the shutter now up. Fantastic day. And this is coming from BACnet. It's a BACnet object, but the original items come from a different BMS that is serving us all these things in BACnet. This is interesting, very interesting when you have a project where the SCADA is BACnet and has to be BACnet, and it's not possibility to change it to a different solution, but it's not a problem for us because we can serve to BACnet whatever. So you can still have your solution, the best solution in lighting control, for example, with DALI and KNX, with the lamps module, as you will see tomorrow, and integrate it to the BMS. And then if somebody wants it in BACnet, it's not a problem. And also it's possible to serve to OPC UA, for example. OPC UA as a server configuration is very simple. We just enable anonymous access, for example, and enable the OPC UA, of course, OPC UA. And while it is restarting, I will open one OPC UA client that I have here. So we can see as a client, it should discover the OPC as OPC UA and then demonstrated that it's very simple to serve every item, every single item in OPC UA, of course, and also in OPC DA. It's both possibilities are possible. So it's really, really fantastic. I'm sorry because I'm lasting a bit more than expected, but I think it's interesting to see this because tomorrow we have a lot of things to see also. So, okay, so server is starting. My BMS, I mean, is not started. And this software is a client for OPC UA. So I just, what I just did is configure that it's OPC UA server, and we will see all the items here doing nothing more than configuring the anonymous access. So how you see behind that is open. And then what I have to do is add the server. It's recognized the NETx BMS Platform, the access as anonymous. Yesterday it took me 2 or 3 times to do this discovery, but it was working at the end. So maybe some authentication or we need to restart again the server. But okay, I promise that it was connected yesterday. It was just authentication enable the anonymous access, and accessing as the anonymous access, it was a question of time that it was recognized and working fine. So well, this is one example, but we have also OPC DA. So as a client also, we can see different possibilities, OPC DA. So can explore, and you can see here that we have my BMS core server. Can connect, and then we have here my core server, and we have possibility to add items here also. OPC item, create a OPC group, and then select items for the group, and you have here the item tree complete. So it's interesting. You have and you have the elements here one by one, but it's a OPC client explorer, so it's just a test tool to demonstrate that the server is working fine and it's exporting to OPCDA or even to OPC UA if we can find the proper way to configure, but it doesn't mind. It was just to show you that it's working as OPC client and an OPC server, a BACnet server, OPCDA server, OPC UA server, so it's working fine. So question is that we couldn't configure properly, but it's working fine. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you tomorrow in the next sessions if you are inscribed to that. So thanks. I hope it has been interesting for you, and if you have any question, please let us know. Bye.